Imagine waking up one morning, walking over to your neighbor's house because they didn't show up for your usual morning walk, and finding the front door wide open. You walk in, and you find 11 people, a whole family, 3 generations, grandmother, sons, daughters-in-law, grandchildren, all of them hanged from the ceiling and gone. No forced entry, no struggle, no note explaining why. This is the Burari case, one of Delhi's strangest real-life mysteries, and today, I'm going to explain it like you're 5. Simple words, no jargon, just the story, and what investigators eventually figured out. Let's set the scene like a storybook. There was a family, let's call them the Bhatias, living in a neighborhood called Burari, in North Delhi. They'd lived there for over 20 years. On the outside, they looked like any normal, middle-class Indian family. They ran a small business selling plywood and groceries. Neighbors described them as friendly, quiet, hardworking. Kids went to school, adults went to work. Nothing seemed off. The family had 11 members living under one roof, an 80-year-old grandmother, her 2 sons and 1 daughter, their spouses, and several grandchildren, including teenagers. So, imagine a big joint family, like the ones in old Bollywood movies, where everyone eats together, celebrates festivals together, and makes decisions together. Now here's the first piece of the puzzle. A few years earlier, the family patriarch, the grandfather, passed away. And that's when things started to quietly shift. After the grandfather died, one of his sons, a man named Lalit, started acting differently. Think of Lalit like the middle child of the house, who suddenly started giving instructions to everyone. What to do, what not to do, who to talk to, who not to talk to. At some point, Lalit told the family something extraordinary. He said their dead father was still speaking to him, through him, like a channel, a connection between this world and the next. Now, if you grew up in a household with strong traditions around ancestors, spirits, or rituals, this might not sound as shocking as it does to an outsider. Many families believe in staying connected to those who've passed, so when Lalit said he was receiving guidance, the family didn't dismiss it as crazy. They leaned in and trusted it. Slowly, Lalit began writing down these messages every night, and the rest of the family started following them, treating his words as instructions from a higher authority, almost like a family religion that only they knew about. This is important. Nobody outside the house knew this was happening. Not neighbors, not extended relatives, not friends. The family kept it completely private. After the tragedy, police found something chilling. 11 notebooks, handwritten, filled with instructions. Investigators called them the diaries. Think of them like a rulebook that had been building for years, page after page of dos and don'ts. Some entries were about small things, how to run the shop, how to behave with neighbors, family discipline. Others were more unusual, describing rituals the family should perform. The very last entries described a final ritual, one that involved the family gathering together, tying themselves up and waiting. Here's the heartbreaking part investigators eventually concluded. The family did not believe they were going to die. Based on the diary language, they seemed to believe this final ritual would somehow protect them, or even bring the grandfather back, or bring the family good fortune. It reads less like a suicide pact, and more like a family that trusted a process they didn't fully understand the danger of, right up until the very end. Now, I'll describe what happened on July 1st, 2018, factually, but without going into graphic detail, because that's not what matters here. A neighbor who used to walk with one of the family members noticed he hadn't shown up that morning. The family's shop hadn't opened either, unusual since they always opened early. He went to check on them. He found the front door open, and inside, 10 family members had died together in the courtyard, and the grandmother had died separately in another room. There was no sign of a break-in, no sign that anyone else had been in the house. Investigators very quickly ruled out murder by an outsider. This is the part that made headlines everywhere, because on the surface, it looked almost staged, like a scene from a movie. And that's exactly why, for weeks, nobody could agree on what actually happened. For a while, there were a lot of theories floating around. Theory 1. Mass murder. Maybe someone else was involved. Investigators checked this thoroughly. CCTV, forensics, interviews. There was no evidence of outside involvement. Theory 2. A cult or blackmail. Some people speculated the family had been manipulated by an outside group. Investigators didn't find evidence of that either. Theory 3, and this is the one experts eventually landed on, a psychological condition called shared psychosis. Let me explain that like you're 5, because it's genuinely fascinating. Imagine one person starts believing something that isn't true, a delusion. Normally, that stays contained to that one person. But if that person is trusted deeply, and the people around them are emotionally close, isolated from outside opinions, and dependent on that person for guidance, sometimes the belief spreads. Not because everyone is crazy, but because trust and isolation can make a false belief feel completely real to a whole group. Mental health experts who studied this case believe Lalit was likely experiencing a genuine psychological disorder, something that gave him vivid experiences he interpreted as messages from his late father. And because the family trusted him completely and didn't have much contact with outside perspectives that might have challenged the belief, that belief slowly became the family's shared reality. It's a rare condition, but it's documented in psychology, and Burari became one of India's most cited real-world examples of it. So why do people still talk about Burari years later? Because it challenges a comforting assumption that tragedy always announces itself, that you'd be able to spot something wrong from the outside. Here, neighbors saw a normal family, relatives saw a normal family, the kids went to school like normal, and yet, behind closed doors, an entire belief system had built up quietly, night after night, for years, until it reached its final, devastating conclusion. Experts who study this case today often point to a few lessons. Isolation, cutting a family off from outside opinions, can let harmful beliefs grow unchecked. Grief, left unaddressed, can sometimes turn into something the whole family absorbs, not just one person. And mental health struggles are often invisible until it's too late, which is exactly why checking in on people, especially after a loss in the family, actually matters. So that's the Burari case, explained as simply as I could. Not a ghost story, not a horror movie, a real family, a real loss, and a psychological spiral that nobody outside the house ever got the chance to interrupt. If this video made you think about a friend or family member who's gone quiet lately, or seems increasingly isolated, maybe that's your sign to check in on them today. If you found this explanation helpful, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.